Today's guest on Adversity is Strength from V. Freeman. Their life has been shaped by both unimaginable adversity and extraordinary strength. Dena Hodges is the granddaughter of Charles M. Schulz, the legendary cartoonist behind the Peanuts legacy, but her story is far from a tale of privilege and comfort. Dena endured the mysterious death of her father as an infant, years of physical and mental abuse from her mother, the complete emotional disconnection from the legacy she was born into. She discovered the death of her grandfather, one of the most iconic figures in American culture, not through family, but through a television screen. While her lineage is internationally recognized, Dena's life has been marked by silence, survival, and the painful pursuit of truth. She's a survivor of complex PTSD, and her story has been described by trauma therapists and spiritual counselors as almost unbelievable in its depth and complexity. Armed with background in psychology, forensic psychology, and business, Dena is not just a survivor, she's a speaker, an author, and a powerful advocate for those who've endured family betrayal, abuse, and emotional exile. This is a conversation about generational trauma, identity, survival, and the power of reclaiming your voice, even when the world has tried to silence it. Dena, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you for having me.
That's a lot there, just in an intro. Take me back to the beginning of your journey and tell me from where it all started for you, because there's a lot there.
Yeah, well, it started, I was born in Santa Rosa, California in 1974. And so my life was really great then. I was spoiled as a spoiled princess. It was just, I was the only grandchild. And I didn't remember being around my mom too much, but I was around my grandmother all the time. So my grandmother took care of me and she took all these pictures and stuff and videos of me. And I was very happy, except for when we went to, when I was 5, my mom decided to get married to this other guy. So my real father died mysteriously. And I say mysteriously because there's weird circumstances around it. When I was 11 months old, my mother had told me that he had wanted to go down and party one last time and go down with his friends down a Whitewater River in an inner tube. However, I found something else out a little more nefarious, that he was actually going after some gang members, some Hells Angels gang members. And there's an open missing persons case on him, yet I have his death certificate. No one saw the body. My mom said she found him. My grandfather said she didn't. My grandfather said the electric company found him. So I don't even know like what around that is weird. So that's my real dad. He was actually going to be, he wanted to be an aeronautics engineer. So brilliant guy, just doing the wrong things. He was in the wrong, doing his little fit 1960s stuff. So we moved to Colorado in 1980 and my life changed dramatically. I think that it's because my mom actually had her family around her. So she could just send me off to her mom's or send me off to my grandpa's, whatever. And they would take care of me. And now my mom had to take care of me. So it was like my life, I thought like as a kid, I thought it was attributed to my stepfather. My mom was just being so nasty to me. And he was like, no, she's always been pretty rough with you, just, it started off small. I mean, I guess I was getting beat with the belt. I don't remember like it, as a little kid, like 4 and 5, my mom would have this leather strap that she would take to me and just demeaning all the time. We got to the point where things were like, I was just getting beat the time I didn't even understand why. She had some really amazing, like fun punishments that were, she would stick me in a corner and then she would make a cave around me, like an armoire where I couldn't see out or anything. And like, she would leave me there all day. I'd be stuck in there all day. And I remember one day I was like, I'm bored. Yeah, I'm a little kid. I'm like 9 years old. And I was playing tic-tac-toe on the chair. I was scraping the finish off the chair. And I played tic-tac-toe on the chair. My mom was, oh my gosh, she was livid, because I ruined her chair. With her, it was like nothing I did was right. Ever. Like no, I could do nothing right. We would ride horses, we would compete and stuff. And I think that number one, I'm going to just say this. If I did not have the horses, I would not have survived. I would have killed myself. Having an animal there was like, just to be able to get on and just get away or just talk to them. That was like what helped me survive during that time. It was just exponentially worse as I got as a teenager. The more I would talk, the more I would get beat. So it was like, shut up, go away, shut up, go away. The worst part about this whole thing, I'd take my mom's beatings over this. I didn't realize this, but my whole time in Colorado, she was telling my family what a horrible kid I was because she had to justify any bruises on me or anything like that. So my family thought I was like this horrible demonic child. And so I would write letters to my cousin and they would be intercepted. They wouldn't let my cousin read my letters or anything. Like she was starting to segregate me from my entire family. And yeah, so I mean, this happened like when I was younger and then all the way up. And then when we would start to have, so we would have little family, whatever, like say I go to Christmas or something like that. Something would always happen with my mom. She would always come up to me. One of her favorite things is to come up to me and pinch me on the back of my arm, twist it, and then whisper in my ear and threaten me. And that way nobody could see what was going on, but they could see my reactions. It was like she's very calculating. And so they always thought like Dena is like really volatile, because I'm like, stop doing this, like stop touching me like this, so basically it just got really bad. It came to a head in the physical abuse came to a head in the when I was about 15 years old. I had had enough. I was tired of getting beaten. I was, tired of being a slave. I was tired of being like just treated like I'm like, you don't even want me, so what are you doing? I told her, I was like, why do you have to be such a B
Yeah,
word? And
go for it.
she grabbed me by my hair and slammed my head against the barn wall and was like, get inside. And that commenced the worst beating I'd ever had in my life. So she tied me to a chair and beat me till I was bleeding, front and back. And until I passed, like every time I would cry, she would just beat me harder and harder and harder. And so I finally passed out from the pain and got up and she was like, I love you. Okay, good night. And I had just bloody welts everywhere. And I did. Then I think it was probably a couple weeks after that, she had said something to me and I got mad and I was like, you know what? I was like, I was probably one of your abortions that didn't work. And she slapped me across my face. And I had this huge, huge handprint, purple handprint on my face. And she told me go to school. And I'm like, how am I going to hide this? Like the other ones, I would wear a turtleneck and, do the typical child abuse thing. And I was like, I can't hide this. So the teacher saw it and they're like, what happened? And I was like, I ran into a door. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. So, I never told anything. Obviously, I was always protecting my mom. Like when the teachers would ask me stuff, what's going on, I was just like, I'm not going to tell you. There's nothing wrong. Everything's fine. When I was 16 years old, I went to school one day and they called me into the office and I was like, okay, what did I do? So I go in the office and there's all these cops in the office and I was like, oh my gosh, like terrified. I was absolutely terrified because there's police officers in there. And they're like, did your mom hit you? And I was like, no, like what are you here for? And they're like, well, we know your mom hits you because we have 3 documented cases right here of different things that have happened to you, bruises all over you. And we're putting you in foster care. And I was like, you're not putting me in foster care. I was like, I will run away. I will not stay there. I was like, she will kill me. You have to send me home. I'm safer at home than if you take me out. And she ended up getting charged for child abuse. And then she got charges. Yeah, she got charges against her. She had to successfully complete probation for 2 years. And if she didn't touch me for 2 years, her entire record would be wiped clean. So it's a United States thing. So I'm like, okay, this is great, whatever. So I was trying to I never went to the family. Like my grandmother would ask when she would see me, she was like, she would ask my mom, are you abusing this child? Because like I wasn't able to eat unless I had my hand. It was like Emily Post book of etiquette. My elbows had to be on the table. I had to be sitting straight up, shoulders back. I was trying to eat spaghetti and she was like, you can't lean over the shoulder, the table. You got to sit up straight. What's wrong with you? And I'm like 9. And so my mom's mom was like, are you abusing this child? And she's like, no. And that's all. And then she blames her mom and my dad, my stepdad, for putting the idea that I was abused in my head. And so all this time, she is going behind my back and telling all my aunts and uncles how horrible I am. And then when I was 19, she actually sent me to boarding school. So I went to boarding school so she could successfully complete her probation. If I wasn't in the home, she
So
would
she,
yeah. So I got sent to boarding school and I was like, well, because she got sent to Switzerland to boarding school. I only got sent to Massachusetts from Colorado. So, I was like, all right, at least I didn't have to go halfway across the world. But so I went to boarding school and she successfully completed probation. Well, I never thought to tell anybody because I was so terrified of my mother, like so terrified of her. And when I was 19, I came home from boarding school and I was done, graduated. And we had gotten in a fight. I was like, I am done. I was like, I'm tired of living with her. Like, this is just horrible. And so I cleared out my savings account and I told my stepdad, I'm coming down to New Orleans with you. And he was like, why? And I'm like, to live. So I just can't live here anymore. And New Orleans was great. And I finally felt freedom for the first time. Like I didn't have anybody screaming in my ear and telling me what a worthless piece of trash I am, But that's where I started to get into drinking. And then I was like, a little bit of drugs. And I was like, ooh, I finally can feel happy for the first time in my life, Like I finally feel happy with these drugs. And so I got on cocaine and my dad, I was only doing it for like 3 months, but I was bad. Like it was so bad. And my dad was like, nope, put me up by the scruff of my neck and put me on a plane back to Colorado to my mom. And I was like, really? So, but she was really nice. Like she was very nice when I came back. Like she bought me all new clothes and, let me stay in her house and stuff. So she was being really nice. Then I had gotten clean for quite some time and I decided to go back to school and I wanted to get into psychology because I wanted to understand my behaviors. I wanted to understand her behaviors. And I just, just like you, it just got me into this. Like, why do people do what they do?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah. So I'm like, I go and I study at the community college because I didn't care about college. So I messed up my SAT on purpose. I did not care. So I had to go to community college first, and then I got into the college that I wanted to go to. And when I went to that college, it was awesome. Like I had a great time. But my mom does this thing where she like dangles a carrot in front of me. She'll be like, hey, I'll do this if you do this. And then she'll pull it from me. Well, college happened to be that. So I didn't have the grades that she wanted, which actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise. So it wasn't like a bad thing. It was a bad thing at the time, but it wasn't a bad thing. So at 24, I dropped out of college and she left me with a $4,000, $5,000 tuition bill. And I was like, okay. And then I started going back into the drug thing again. I'm like, nobody cares. So I'd never even considered trying to get to my family. It's like I've always been really nervous around my family and like my cousins, they live the high life. Like their parents love them. They have everything they want. They get the best medical treatment. They get the best of everything. I don't. So I get like the lowest of the low. So if that. So I kind of somehow, so basically I'll just fast forward. My mom was, she just keeps going behind my back and talking to my family and just like, Dena's a crack hoe. She's a prostitute. She's over there soliciting her body for money, which never happened. That wasn't even what happened.
Right.
So, and then I'll throw a little fun one in here. When I was doing stuff that I shouldn't have been doing, for obvious reasons, she had actually paid my best friend $4,000 to set me up to put me in prison for
Right.
14. Yeah. So she had given my best friend 4 grand and she's like, I want you to go buy drugs from Dena and have the cops get her so she can go to prison. And that's like,
I've got to ask a question here. I've got to ask a
yeah.
question, but then
Hmm.
please carry on because this is insane. Okay, as a therapist, you tend to know the answers as why somebody does something that they do. Your mum's obviously
Yeah.
not in
Yeah.
narcissistic, psychopath.
Yeah.
What was her? Did she ever give you any justification of the reasons for the abuse, or because it's so ludicrous? And all I'd say as a therapist, that person's got their own self-loathing.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
what was going on? What was her excuses and
So
rationale for it?
there was no, like, she thinks that I am the one that actually changed the abuse laws in the United States. She's like, you're the one, you're the reason that we can't beat our kids anymore. Like, what are you talking about? But I honestly, I've talked to my uncle and I asked my uncle, I was like, was my mom like this as a kid or like, some kind of traumatic thing happened? I know
Yeah, exactly.
she had three, one of them I won't mention. But one of them is
Yeah,
out there.
yeah,
She was 23 years old. My dad died. My dad was the love of her life. So
right.
regardless of how it happened, what happened, or
Yeah,
how he's gone, because I don't even know if he's not in a witness protection plan. There's some weird stuff behind my dad's stuff. Okay. So, but that like killed her inside because she loved him like more than anything. She also
right.
found out around that time that she was Charles Schultz's adopted daughter. She was not his biological daughter. which I
Right.
would be like, what's the problem? Because he
Yeah.
chose
Yeah.
you. I was like,
Exactly.
he literally, like, my grandmother told me that Charles Schultz was so in love with my mom as a baby. He came to her and wanted to adopt Meredith as his own. And I was like, so you were loved, but you're mad about being loved and being chosen. I was like, he didn't choose your siblings, he chose you. And then she had another thing happen that was extremely traumatic around that same, like around that 2 year period.
Yeah.
So, and the family, I can say from what I've gone through in the last 18 years, the family is horrible to me and they're just as horrible to her. So I understand, like, she wants somebody to love her, but she doesn't realize that, like, you have it. It's just your daughter. You're seeking elsewhere. So the family's really awful to her too. They're like, she's crazy. We don't want to talk to her. We don't want anything to do with her. And so I can see, I think I can see her feeling alone, just, and just like people are out to get her because they won't let her, like, they don't want her in the family stuff because she's very egocentric.
Right.
She wants everything to be on her, like the camera to be on her and everything.
So,
So,
so obviously, I want to get back to the story. It's just crazy, like I said.
mhm.
But so the actual family members don't like her because I would imagine that she's upset them over the years.
Oh my gosh, yes. Like,
Right.
yeah, she's really just rude. And like, I mean, all of our stuff, it's like they don't like me either because every
Why don't?
single every single family event that happens, my mother does something to me. I react. They don't see my they don't see what my mother's done. They see my reaction and they're like, "Why is Dena so rude? And why are you don't behave, Dena?" And I'm like, "If you guys only knew what my mother was doing every single time, like, for example, I mean, I can fast forward to my grandpa's when actually it wasn't his funeral. She had called me and she said, "We need to go see your grandpa. He's gonna die. He's not gonna make it through the night." And I was like, "Okay." This is in November, before that February. And we had gone out to California and she had literally assaulted me in the hotel room, jumped on my back, put me in a chokehold, and I leaned back on the bed to get her off because I worked at a youth detention center. So I knew how to safely get somebody off me without hurting them. And she had called the cops and told them I punched her in the face and I tried to break her nose and she tried to have me arrested. And the cop let me go. He was like, "That lady's crazy." So I was in handcuffs on the side of the road and my uncle came to pick me up, but my mom had already gotten to him. So of course he got rid
Yeah.
of me, the problem. I was like, shoot, get out of here. But that's always like how things go.
Surely, though, common sense, right? Because when somebody's narcissistic, they will always get to friends and family and tell their story
Hmm.
first. And I've
Yeah.
studied it for
Yeah.
years. And the problem you've got is that the vast majority of people that hear the story first, even if it's a complete lie, will still
Hmm.
stick to listening to that story. So you could turn up with all of this over more evidence
Yeah.
than the OJ trial,
Yes.
and they're
Yeah.
still going to believe them
Yep.
over the decades, when everybody knows what your mum's like, they might go, "Well, you know, Dena, it might not be true what we've heard about Dena."
Now
Surely,
they
you would
they
think.
literally, so for example on that one, um I told my aunt like probably about 3 years ago, this would be Craig Schultz's wife, Judy. Really, she's not my real aunt. She's just married. She's a really nice lady, and I told her everything that my mom, like the major things that my mom has done to me, and she was in tears, and she was like, "I am so sorry." But then the next day, she had talked to my uncle in between that, and she was like, "Well, we don't really believe you." She's like, "We don't think that happened to you, and we think that you're just making everything up." And I'm like, so fast forward to a year ago, like a year and a half ago, I've been having a lot of jaw problems for, my gosh, 20, 30 years, just clicking and snapping and just like severe pain. So I went to this jaw doctor and this jaw doctor is like, "You have the worst jaw I've ever seen. You have no joints left. They're gone. And this is from you being slapped across the face as between anytime between 3 and 10 years old." She's like, "What happened is your mom slapped you across your face and displaced your disc in your face, and it just wore down the bones." So that doctor said that. Then I went to go see another doctor, and he was like, "Yes, I see this all the time in domestic violence incidences. This is from repeated blows from a right handed assailant." So I told my family, I said, "You know what?" I said, "I know y'all don't believe me, but truth always prevails." I
Sure.
said, "Bam, here's your doctor's stuff." I said, "I wasn't lying." And now I have to come up with $100,000 for the surgery. And none of them even responded. Nothing.
No,
Not
no,
even, and I'm sorry, nothing.
yeah.
So, yeah, so
Which
you're right.
is because then they, yeah, exactly. So it's just ridiculous. So going back to your story, your mum is trying to get you sent to prison, fitted
Yeah.
up, as they say in the UK.
Yeah. She's trying to get me sent to prison for rehab. So she's like, I want to put you in rehab. And I'm like, I'm not going to rehab. Like, so I have some other family members that have been in rehab like 13 times at 80,000 a pop, but I didn't get that. I got $4,000 and hopefully you can go to prison. So I got God. I had somebody across the street that knew what was going on because he had some police department friends. So he's like, whatever you do. And then I was smart enough because I was like, you don't even do drugs. So get out of my house. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So it didn't work. Um, but then, I mean, she's had me followed by a private investigator. Like my mom is kind of nuts. So I got out of that, and by the grace of God, I actually, it is God on this one. I was in the middle of doing my usual drugs during the day. I didn't care. I didn't care about life. I didn't want to be alive, and I was doing my drugs, and then all of a sudden it made me violently ill, and I've never touched it since. Like it was like divine intervention. Like God stopped me from doing that.
Yeah,
And I was like, thank you. Like, and wasn't even into God at that point in time. I was like, that was God. Like, there's no way I could be delivered from a cocaine habit like that.
mm,
So I had my kids, and I had my two daughters, which when I had them, it was like God sent somebody to save me. So like this is where like some of the healing was. It was like I had a little person to take care of, and that person loved me, and that person depended on me. So it was like,
yeah,
all right, I'm gonna do anything I can for this baby. And then I had another daughter 14 months later, and it was just the three of us. And it sucked because I'm the true single mom. There was no aunts, no uncles, no nothing. I raised my own kids by
yeah,
myself. I did have a minimal trust fund when my grandpa passed away. Um, that was a fun one. The funeral was great. That was horrible, actually. He gave me a trust fund that was like a set amount, but my mother was in charge of it. I think my grandfather was trying to get us to get along,
yeah.
and
Right.
it didn't work out. So my mom took about 70, I don't know where the money is. It's 75% of the money was gone when I got it. And I was like, where is the money that grandpa gave me? And nobody could tell me. They're like, it's taxes. And I'm like, you can't, there's no tax that's 75%. You know?
75%.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm not that stupid, but I'm like, I'm not even about the money. So I'm like, I don't care, whatever. So I had my children, and we never did anything with family. Like it was always by ourselves. There was one aunt in Utah. She would send them gifts. She would send the kids gifts every year, make sure they had a Christmas, which I appreciate that. And in the beginning, like sometimes the other aunts would send stuff to the kids. So like I said, I don't care about things. I was just worried about my children. And in 2007, I needed a surgery, and because I had a tumor on one of my ovaries. And I just was like, okay, I'm gonna go handle it. I was in school. I was getting my bachelor's degree in psychology. So and because I was just trying to do better for my kids, and I wanted to work with at-risk youth. And that surgery did not go off with a hit. I mean, it went off horribly, and it got me extremely sick. And it turned out I had an incisional hernia, and I was in sepsis, septic shock. I needed help. So I called my family. I had no money. I couldn't go to the doctors. I couldn't even walk. I was literally dying. And I called the family. I called my uncle in California, and I asked him, I was like, I'm dying. I need help. Like, I'm not kidding. And he said I was being over dramatic as usual, and there was no need to be over dramatic. And he was going to get with the lawyers and just see. And there was no response for 3 weeks, and I'm literally fighting for my life. I had no idea I had sepsis at the time. I literally found this out like a year ago. I finally figured out what happened to me. So, no doctors would help me because I didn't have insurance. So, the doctors were like, no, sorry, go. I actually was told by an emergency room doctor to go home and die. I had less than 2 weeks to live, and they weren't going to do anything to help me. So, and I had no family. So I remember that night I was just like, I was in bed and just felt like my heart was being ripped out of my back. Just like the pain, the visceral pain from the emotional pain of not having anybody. But that was from my mom telling everybody that all I am is a drug addict. and all I want is their money, you know. And I even sent them I sent them doctor's notes, just like you said. I sent them doctor's notes, I sent them pastoral notes, I sent them my doctor's, like all the medicine, you know, what was going on. And they said, "Who'd you pay off to get this?" I'm like, I didn't pay anybody off. Like, I'm trying to get help here. And nobody would come see me at all. And then the fun part is during this time, the family tried to have, they wanted to conspire to have my children taken from me from DCF, because by DCF. They didn't want my kids. I asked my aunt, I was
They,
like, can, yeah.
they
So,
well, hold on one sec. Seriously.
yeah. Hmm?
Right. So you're out there on your own, dying. Nobody
Yeah.
cares. They want to take your kids, but they don't want them.
No, they did not want them. I asked my aunt, she's a Mormon in Utah. I said, if I die, because she's a great mom, like her kids love her. And I was like, you know, if I die, will you please take my kids and raise my kids? She said, nope. She said, I'll put them in the Mormon foster care system. And
Sure.
I'm like, so that I was like, no way. Like, did you just say that? And then I have like on audio, at first I was so sick back then. I was recording the conversations to my family because nobody believes me that how they treat me. And I was listening to it and they're like, yeah, you know, just because my siblings wanted to, my mom said this, just because my siblings wanted to, you know, make sure your kids were taken from you. I'm like, why? Because I'm sick and nobody will help me. Like, they were clothed, they were healthy, you know, they're without them I probably would have died, you know.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were actually the reason, that they were the reason I had to live. So I just
Yeah.
sat there and I had nobody. I had this one lady from she's my co-author. She's from the Drive line. So this is another positive. Like, people need to pay attention to the people around them and who God puts in their life, because this lady was just a person in the Drive line and we just hit it off. And she actually took me in her house for, like, I want to say 3 to 6 weeks, and nursed me every hour to get me, like, so I wouldn't die. And she took care of my kids. Yeah, just some random stranger, you know?
So you got a family,
Hmm.
absolutely filthy rich. They've
Yeah.
gone out of their way not to help you. You've told
Hmm.
them that you're dying. Let's have some element of compassion,
Yeah.
regardless of whether you're actually on drugs or not, even though you're not. And
Hmm.
this is what's happening. You'd be
Hmm.
like, "Do you know what? She's got two small children. She's a family. She's a human being. Let's help her." They've
Yeah.
gone out of their way not to help you. They've then tried to
Mm-mm.
take your children away, throw them into the ether. The doctors are not interested. Go home to die. And then
Hmm.
some random lady has took you in and nursed you back to. It's just
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So
You
she's
couldn't
like,
make it up.
no, I know, that's what she's like. So she started trying to talk to my family, like, to help me. And I was like, you don't understand. They hate me. And she was like, no, 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 they'll be fine. And so she gets on this and she's trying to talk to him. She goes, what is wrong with your family? And I'm like, I told you, they do not care. They want me gone. You know, I was like, so she tried to fight for me and she was like, we're on our own, girl. So she, you know, she helped me as much. She had her own family. She had her husband. She had her own two little young children. And I was like, and we're friends 18 years later, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, so then God put her in my life, and, you know, I mean, it's like perfect, you know? And then I got, I didn't get, I got a doctor too. That was another thing. A doctor got me close to a doctor in California, which was the naturopath. And he was like, okay, you need to start drinking cow colostrum. We had no idea what was going on with me, but I think the antibodies in the cow colostrum helped me like, not get over the sepsis, but help it not take over my body, you know? So I'm still screaming it, like, help me. And I finally just gave up because I was like, they're not going to help me. They don't care if I live or die. So I started praying. This is another thing, like, positive thing. I started praying and I was like, God, please don't take me from these kids. You know, they don't
Yeah.
want them. You know, I don't have anybody to take care of them. And you know, they need me. And I'm telling you, like, I was having non-presenting seizures. My blood pressure would dump. I mean, I was blue and shaking. And my poor daughter, like, my daughter has serious trauma because they left me, which left her because she was 6. So she knew what was going on. And so it was just like, I just prayed and prayed. And like every day, I was like, thank you, God, for this day. Like, thank you for waking me up. I really wouldn't sleep that much because I was terrified I was going to die, you
Yeah,
know, when I was,
exactly.
yeah. So, but I started to, I didn't get better. Like, I had no gas. It was like, I just,
On
no
empty.
gas. And so I was trying to I was like, okay, I'm running out of my trust fund. So what am I going to do? So I'm like, all right, my friend was moving to Jacksonville, Florida, the one that took care of me. And I was like, okay, I got to be near her because she knows what's going on with me. So I was like, I sold everything. And I was like, kids, if we're going to be homeless, we're going to be homeless and warm. I moved from Colorado to
Yeah,
Jacksonville.
yeah.
And so I still, oh, I forgot this is very important little part of this sickness thing. The family did come back with an offer for me. I had to give up all of my money. All my money had to go to them. I had to do something with my kids. They were not going to be around me. I was not allowed to make any medical decisions for myself. And I had to get myself to the airport by myself. I was supposed to fly from Colorado to Arizona and fly by myself when I couldn't even walk 10 feet down the hall. Like I just couldn't walk. And then I basically told my family where to go. I was like, that's not help. I was
What
like,
was
you're not.
what was their thinking behind that with all these caveats to helping you out, which is never going to happen?
Because they think that it's a control thing. They just
Yeah, of
want to
course.
like, and it's like, and I told him, I was like, I don't want you to pay me. Don't give me any money. I was like, I don't care if you pay the doctors directly. Like I was
Yeah, yeah,
always
yeah.
very, like I did drugs. I was not trustworthy. So I was like, how can I make this so they, feel comfortable? And I'm like, you can totally
Pay 'em
talk to the
direct.
doctors. Yeah, I'm like, you can talk to the doctors like you have I don't have nothing to hide, so you can talk to the doctors, you can pay the doctors directly. No, no, they wanted it their way. They knew what I was going to do. They knew I was going to tell them to go stick it up their, rear end. And I did in a nice, not in a not so nice way.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Don't blame you.
yeah, so I said that, and unfortunately, I said it to the wrong person. I said it to the very sweet aunt. She's an amazing, like she's a real angel. But her husband is the one that's like he just doesn't like me. He's like you're just a pain. So when I got to Jacksonville, my trust fund was running out. I had no idea what was going on with me physically. And so I called the family again and I'm like, I'm about to go homeless because of this medical. I can't work. And they told me, well, it's easy to go homeless with two kids. Figure it out. I'm like, can you just put me in a little, I don't even care if you tell, just four walls. I don't care if you put me in a little hotel, like, tiny Motel 6. I don't care. Just four walls. And they're like, nope, figure it out. So I drove to and from work at 3 o'clock in the morning. I worked a full-time job. It's by the grace of God, I even got there safely. Every time I would go to work, my people would be like, do you want us to call you an ambulance? Because I was gray. I should have been in the ICU. And yeah, my family would not help at all. Nothing. And so I was like, okay. So that was like the second time where my life was at stake and they just didn't care. And then fast forward, we have there's just so much. I mean, there's just so much stuff that they've done to me. We fast forward and we moved into this house and I still never got help. My mom sent me to the Mayo Clinic. She was in back in 2014. She was like, I think my family like they kind of poke her like you need to do this. So they sent me to the Mayo Clinic here in Jacksonville and that doctor that I saw the first doctor I saw said, I see women like you all the time. You don't need a doctor, you need a psychiatrist. Didn't even examine me, nothing, just as soon as I walked in. And I was like, I just knew I was like, I'm not going to get help. Like, he won't even look at me, you know? And I was reading the reviews on this guy, and that's actually what he does. Like, he does not like women at all. He's just a doctor that treats women absolutely. I mean, he's got reviews like crazy. So then my mom was screaming at me, like, you're fine. These doctors are saying you're fine. And I'm like, no, I'm not fine. And they're not doing what I need them to do. And they were finding stuff and they were ignoring it. So I was going deeper into stuff because I'm actually intelligent. So I was looking at my test results and I'm like, it's showing that there's a really deep infection in my body, like very deep, very systemic infection. And so I kept telling them, like, no, no, it's nothing, it's nothing. And I was having these weird infections, like you don't get them unless you're a newborn baby or an elderly adult. And I had like it's Streptococcus B, and I'm like, how did I get that? Like what is
How old
going
were you at the
on?
time? How old were you?
When 2014, gosh, how old am I? So probably about 42-ish. So
Right.
I'm still, I mean, this is like years into this. This is 14 years into me being sick. So I'm like, I gave up because I was like, nobody's gonna help me. I'm like, I'm just up a creek. So my mom, I decided on this whim because I'm like, I make $40,000. I found a job where I could work at home And so I only made $40,000 a year. I had two kids, which was fine, but I'm like, I couldn't get any medical help because I couldn't afford it. I could afford just what we needed, you know? So I got this brilliant idea to marry this guy because he made 40,000, I made 40, and I was like, okay, we're friends. It should be great. Horrible decision. Don't ever do anything transactional. I call it a transactional relationship, but it was something that I needed to save my life. Like I was all about trying to save my life for my kids. And my mom thought this was great. So she and I actually started getting along for about probably 6 months. And she was amazing. So she gave me a down payment for this house here. We found out that the outside of the house like needs severe renovation. So she renovated the entire outside of the house. It was covered in mold. She did some stuff on the inside, but not a whole lot. Well, I'm gonna fast forward to like not too long ago in 2021, I almost died again. And I was like, what is going on? Like I had gotten COVID, but I still had other stuff. We never really found out what was going on with the other stuff. And then they were like, I think you have Lyme disease, like chronic Lyme disease. And so they put me on antibiotics for like 9 months. And it was like everything started to clear up. And I was like, what's
Yeah.
going on? And so, yeah, so they're like, but you should be bouncing back like way better than this. Like something else is wrong. And so the naturopath was like, I think you have mold toxicity. And I was like, no, I don't have mold toxicity. I was like, we did the
What's
whole
mold
outside of the house.
toxicity?
So mold toxicity is you have
Mold.
like, yeah, mold. So it's
Is that
like, it can
was
be
that
like,
what is that what killed that actress, Brittany Murphy? Was that
I
mold?
don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about her. So basically, she was like, I want you to be tested. And I was like, okay, cool. Test me. Whatever. I was like, it's gonna come back negative, no big deal. Uh-uh. She had that test. It was supposed to be 33 and under. My levels were 3,800. And she was like, it's your house. She's like, your house is killing you. She's like, get out. And I was like, no, I have nowhere to go. So I paid this guy to come test my house, and it was my house. He's like, inside there's two types of zero tolerance molds. And I was like, okay. And he goes, no, you need to leave now, like immediately. This will kill you. And I'm like, I don't have anywhere to go. So I have no money. I can't work. I have nowhere to go. So I'm going to sit in here and see what happens. And 2 months later, my aunt, the nice one, calls me up and wishes me a happy birthday. And I tell her, she's like, how's everything going? I was like, not going well. It was like, my house has toxic mold in it. And she was like, oh my gosh, we got to get you out of there. We got to get you treatment and blah, blah, blah. The next day, she was like, well, you got to go talk to your mom about this. Let her handle it. I'm like, she's not going to do anything. I was like, what she's going to do, she's going to write me a letter about what a disgusting, vile human being I am, how I don't take care of anything. It's all my fault that the mold happened, and to get to work. So my aunt was like, no, she can't do that. And I was like, oh, watch me. Sure enough, I emailed my mom. I didn't answer. I didn't ask her for anything because I won't ask my mom for anything. I was like, I'm just going to let you know what's going on. And sure enough, she sent me that letter exactly the way I said it would be. And she sent me a tent, a tube of caulk, a bucket, and some mold spray and told me to get to work. And the only reason I'm sick is because I have no work ethic and it makes me depressed. So I need to go sleep in the tent, enjoy life, and get to work on my house and make it better. And I was like, okay. So I sent it to the family. I was like, here we go. She's not helping. And they're like, huh, okay. Like wouldn't do anything, nothing. Nobody would do anything to help me. And so I prayed and I prayed, and God told me to ask one person. I was like, nah, I can't ask that person. They're like, no, you're gonna ask this person. And I was like, nah, I can't ask that person. But sure enough, with God in my life, $300,000 renovation. This house had to be gutted. The whole interior is a 4,500 square foot house. The whole interior had to be gutted. The mold was behind the kitchen cabinets. It was behind the drywall. It was underneath my floor and behind the tile in my showers. It wasn't even like you could not see it. That's why I never knew it was there. And so I took pictures of, like you said, I mean, I have evidence, that there's drywall here and mold under the durock. And I was like, it's not me. And no, they wouldn't even they wouldn't even buy my family mattresses. We had to throw everything away.
Yeah,
And
yeah, of course.
and they wouldn't. I asked my family, I was like, we would be so grateful if you could just get us some mattresses. I was like, I went to the mattress store, didn't even pick out the expensive ones. I picked out the cheapest mattresses possible and sent him like a $4,000 invoice. I was like, if you guys are so inclined, we'd be so grateful, just for some mattresses because we have nothing to sleep on. Nothing. Merry Christmas, thinking of you. That's all I got. That's all we got. So we were left many times asking the family, and yeah, couldn't get anything. Nothing at all. So I've been dealing with things on my own, obviously. One way I get through it is God. Like I've seen him like move mountains. I was not supposed to survive. I was told I had less than 2 weeks to live. And that wasn't the only person that said that. It was like every doctor I went into was like, you are dying actively. And I'm like, I know, like, stop telling me, you're stressing me out because you're not giving me a solution to this, And it was God. And I saw God like keep me alive. And then when I was going homeless, my friend Wendy let me in her house so I didn't have to be on the street. But that was a strain on our friendship because the girls would argue back and forth.
Yeah.
So it was like, because they're little kids. So it was like, okay. So then we got out of there. I had sold my house in Colorado, so I had enough money to get into another place. But it was a mold infested house. Actually, that one was. So it was a little tiny. It was in the hood in the ghetto, and my
Yeah.
kids. Yeah, we couldn't even get out of I couldn't get my kids out because there were shootings, murders, and I'm like, yeah, you're not getting out of this house. So yeah, it's been a fun ride, but I guess I can go to the parts unless you want to ask me questions about like more because there's so much stuff.
I've got endless questions.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I think we do this in like weekly installments,
I know, right? It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot.
So 300,000 in renovations. Who paid for the renovations then?
I can't say it's a guardian angel. I'm not allowed to
Right.
say. It's supposed to be anonymous.
Right.
But it was a guardian, a person not related to me, and just a guardian angel.
It was someone that like knew you, heard what was going on, didn't like the injustice, and like, you know what, leave it to me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
How did you feel when? I bet you.
I did. I actually, this person has helped me for quite some time. I actually broke down in tears the first time with this person because I was like, it was actually when the mold had happened. I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. I was like, I'm literally about to die again. I can feel it. And so I emailed, God told me, he's like, write this person. I'm like, no, like, stop telling me to write this person, like they already said no a long time ago. And so I'm sitting there and I'm writing it. And then this person sent me a sermon about Jesus healing a woman after 12 years of her, having these major medical problems. And the next morning I got an email stating that this person would help me with my medical so I could finally get some treatment. And I broke down and cried for like 3 hours because it's like, I've never had anybody nice to me ever to do that. And so I was just like, thank you, God. Like, I mean, if I could have been on my knees, I need knee replacement surgery too. So but could I have been on my knees? I would have been on my knees just crying. Like I cried for 3 hours, just tears of thank you, God. Like, thank you so much. I had waited for 16 years to get help. And my family won't help me because I don't do Western medicine. I'm like, Western medicine is actually what almost killed me. I do Eastern medicine. I don't believe Western medicine is good. Sorry. I believe they're great for trauma. If you break a leg, they're great. You go there for a heart attack, they're great, but not for what I have, So yeah, it's just been it's been a heck of a ride. I've cut them out. So basically what happened was after the mold, it's like God gave them chances to, number one, be a part of my life, and number two, help us and just kind of get to know me as me. And they did nothing, like nothing. And I'm literally like, no, can we help with your medical? They're just like, well, let Meredith do. I'm like, she's not going to. Like, I don't know how many times I can tell you this. So I wrote each of them an email basically telling them I would never bother them again. It's abundantly clear that I mean absolutely nothing to them and that my family means absolutely nothing to them. And I will never ask them for another thing again. And I haven't spoken to any of them in like 2 years. None of them.
2 years. How do you feel now that you finally cut ties with them?
I feel actually relieved because I'm not trying to chase after their like love. I mean, I've been trying to chase after, like, because I've never had anybody that's loved me on this planet except for my kids. So it's like, and my grandma did. My grandpa and my grandma did. Like my grandpa Schultz, he was amazing. So this is nothing. He was amazing. He was just I think he was just out of the loop, you know?
I think so.
So,
Do you think that they're just all a family of narcissists?
yeah, I know what happened from psychology. Um,
Yeah. What
basically
do you
my
reckon?
grandfather had nothing. My grandfather had absolutely nothing. So when he got rich, all he wanted to do was give his kids everything. He wanted to give his kids the world, and he did. So he made, what did he call it? The coffee grounds. And it was like, the kids are like, we lived in Disneyland. Anything we wanted, we got. My Uncle Craig liked dirt bikes. He got a dirt bike track on his property. My mom liked horses. She had as many horses as she wanted on the property. They wanted cows, they got cows. They wanted a swimming pool. So they got whatever they wanted. And then of course my grandpa's flying all over the place, so he's not really being a father because he's doing his, he's got to do Snoopy and stuff like that. And then my grandmother was, I hear from my other aunts and uncles, she was amazing. Best mom ever. My mom says a totally different story, but I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm listening to four out of one, I'm gonna go with the four, So they had an amazing life, but they are spoiled to no end.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
It
like,
comes across as that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, I want more, I want more, I want more, I want more. And it's like, I'm like, I don't even know how I got the way I did, but like I told my mom, I would rather be homeless and have my mental health than have your money. And I walked away. I was like, you can take your money and shove it where the sun don't shine because I don't want that. I want a relationship with you that's a positive relationship or where I don't need one at all. And I walked away at 19 years old and I never asked for anything. My grandfather knew that my mom wasn't going to take care of me. So I happened to be the only grandchild in the will, but it was because he knew that his kids were going to take care of their kids and my mom was not going to take care of me. And it was confirmed like 16, 17 years later that that's exactly what he was doing. He knew that my mom wasn't going to take care of me. So now, but that made my aunts and uncles mad at me too. They were very angry that I was put in the will. And I'm like, I didn't put myself in the will. Like, I didn't even know it happened, you know? So
Where's your relationship with your mum now? Have you cut ties with her at all?
cut ties with her. I'm not,
Did you
she's
tell her?
so, yeah, I told her, I was
What?
like, you will not, absolutely will not talk to me with, and that's the thing is like, I've read these books. I highly recommend these books. It's called Boundaries. And it's just putting up healthy boundaries. It's in a
Yeah.
biblical way, but it's just, teaching people how to put up healthy boundaries. And I told her, I was like, I love you. I will always love you. You're my mother, but you will never speak to me with disrespect again. And if you do, I was like, the ball's in your court. You can have a relationship with me,
Yeah.
but you will not ever, ever treat me with disrespect again. I was like, I don't want to hear I'm fat, frumpy, I'm a piece of trash, I'm too stupid to do stuff. It's not going to happen anymore. So I made it very clear, but very nice. I was very respectful about it. And I just told her, I'm not reaching out to you anymore. And then she's like, one time she screamed at me and she's like, fine, I'll never talk to you until I die. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm not, that's on you. That's not on me, you know? So, because she has a very skewed picture of me and it's stayed for so long. I'm like, that's not even the person I am. I'm not even that person at all, you know?
She's got that narrative and she's never going to change it. And the
No,
same with all the
she's
family
not.
members. They've got a narrative and
Hmm.
they're never gonna change it because they don't
Yeah.
want they're because of their so as you know, money enhances the person you are.
Uh,
So the more money you got, the more it enhances if you're like
yeah.
not a good person or a really good person. And it reminds me of the this TV series It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the comedy with
Yeah.
Danny
Yeah.
DeVito in, where they're like there's about four or five of them that are just not friends and family that are all narcissists going around together. It kind of reminds me of that, but like on like a,
Yeah.
a, a Dallas sort or dynasty sort of scale.
Yeah. I mean, we don't like, I'm sitting there when I was reading my book and like other people have read it and they're like, how are
Yeah,
they like this? Like, and, I told my friend Wendy, she was like, there's no way they could be that bad. I'm like, yeah, they can. And she would
yeah,
talk to him and she was like, I'm mind blown. And her parents, I mean, her parents are upscale people. They did multi-millions of dollars in construction business and the mom was on a hospital board. I mean, they're very well to do. And they're like, what is wrong with your family? And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know. I can't fix them.
no, yeah,
So
of course. So where do you? So you're still in Jacksonville in Florida, aren't you?
yeah, I'm down in Middleburg, like Jacksonville area. So.
Jack. So where do you feel you're at with your life now? Because that's a lot.
So
That's a lot.
I see this is more positive. Okay, I see why I went through what I went through. So this is more God stuff. My daughter started dating this kid, and he like it was like a week into their dating them. He was like, I'm either gonna kill myself or I'm running away. And I was like, okay, what's the deal? Like I barely know this kid. And I had an extra room and I was like, you know what, I'll just take him in. I'm just gonna take him in. I understand why I took that kid in because his life mirrored mine. He was so abused. And I was like, okay, God, I see what you're doing here. So I'm supposed to help this kid, you know? So it's like the suffering that we went through is to help other people, you know? So he's doing
Yeah.
really well now. He's doing really well. And we're still working on stuff. Like I'm working on forgiveness with him and, you know, how are we going to get through? I need you to dig deep into your feelings because he, you know, I mean, a perfect trauma thing. We just like to stuff, you know, and just kind of go through life. So I've been doing that. I'm still sick. Like still I'm suffering so bad now because I did not get any treatment. So I had no treatment for 16 years. And the doctors are like, you know, they're struggling because it's been so long. And I only have, like, I have a primary care doctor, a naturopath, and then a internal medicine specialist. And they work together. But they're like, we need more help because I had some complications during that surgery, you know? So I have a lot of physical disabilities. I don't want to speak it out because I don't want to be that way, but it may
Sure.
be
Yeah.
permanent. It may be permanent. So basically to do stuff. So I'm always one, this is what helped me is I always work towards something. So I'm the one that was doing my master's degree in forensic psychology on my deathbed. I don't even remember like how, but I got 100 in every class and I was doing everything. You know, I was laying on the couch and just doing my master's degree online. Then when I got to here and I was doing a business with my ex-husband at that time. I was doing a construction business and I was like, okay, I have no idea how to run a business. So I was like, well, I always think I'm always a planner and I'm sure you understand this. We always plan for the worst. Plan for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
worst, hope for the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, if I get a master's in business administration, I can use my brain instead of having to go out in the world and I can just, you know, work from home. Well, so I got my MBA and I was still sick and I still finished that one too. I was so sick. I was crawling up the stairs to take my exams and stuff like that. So I passed that with high excellence honors. So I got like I don't even know how I did that either. And then I took like I don't know like 6 months to a year off because I was trying to find a job and I'm not able to work. So I'm like my friend was like, "You know what? You really like criminal justice." And I was like, "Yeah, I do." He's like, "Why don't you finish what you've always wanted to do?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Get a doctoral degree." And I'm like, "Huh. Okay." You know, I was like, "May as well, you know, I'm sitting here, I got to be doing something." Like, I'm not a person that can just be stagnant.
Yeah.
So, um, so I started my doctoral degree and I'm at the end of it. Nothing less than a 99% in that class, in any class in there. Most of them are all hundreds. And I figured out why I like school is because that's the only place I got affirmation that I'm a good person. Like my teachers are like amazing work, like you'd be great as a doctoral kid, like just the positive affirmation. I'm like, this is so sad that I pay, you know, to go to school because it's the only place I get positive affirmation, you know?
Yeah.
So I joined, you know, I have a church that you know, around here that's awesome. So I just, a lot of it is just God. I'm being helped still. I have no idea how I'm going to even take care of myself because I do not have any money to take care of myself. If the person that I have taking care of me decides to stop or something happens to them, I am up a creek, you know, and so I'm just trusting God, you know, at this point. So still working on my dissertation, I'm just helping others, you know,
Yeah.
whether it be over the phone, you know, I think diving in and serving others is helpful for our healing, you know?
Yeah, it is, without a doubt. It's why pretty much every therapist I know, including myself, become a therapist because you want to actually help
Yeah,
others. And you kind of the
exactly.
standard reply I give is, I want to be there for other people when nobody was there for me.
Hmm.
Yeah, same
Exactly.
for
Yeah,
yourself there. Yeah,
exactly.
and
I always like
yeah. Sorry,
I've
say.
always like letting people in. Like, I mean, I used to work for Department of Children and Families where they remove kids from their homes and stuff like that. And I had like they were always warning you, don't get attached to the kids, but I still talk to my kids from there. There's like three of them that they just there was one that was sexually abused by her mother, and I got her adopted. I actually got fired because I wouldn't lie to a judge from that place, but I actually worked after I got fired for this kiddo with the attorneys to make sure that she got adopted by another family, and she has an amazing life, and I'm like, I love it, like that makes me so happy that I know that my work changed that little girl's life for the better.
Yeah.
And then I have another girl. She was a teenager. She was a teen mom, and I've been, around her for 12 years. Just tried to help her out again. She's a hot mess, but she's been through a lot. So I
Yeah.
kind of I just helping others has helped me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. With your own healing, which is often the way. And also, you're
Yeah.
working on a book now. What is
Yes.
it, biography?
It's a memoir. Yeah, biography. It's a memoir, basically. And yes, I wrote that. That took me 18 years to write. So, because it's very hard.
Couldn't finish it. There's
I'm
always
just
new coming along.
Well, it's hard to go through that because there were some parts in there, like there were some especially at my grandfather's funeral, the family treated me absolutely horrifically. It was awful. It's like the first two chapters of my book, actually. And so it was so hard to process those emotions. It's like sometimes I had to take like weeks and months off because I was just
Yeah.
like, it was just so, I'm like, how? Why? Like, why would somebody treat somebody like this?
That's the question I always ask. Unfortunately, you can find the answers. I don't know if it makes it better
Yeah.
or worse.
Yeah. And it's like, I feel like God gave me, I just made me different. I was never the one, like I watch my cousins and their parents are similar to my mom, but not as cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So they will literally do anything their parents say for the money. And I've been
Yeah.
the only one out of 16 grandchildren that will just walk away. I mean, and it's not like my cousins have the psycho mom. My cousins, but my mom, like they have, one of them has parents that she's a little wishy-washy, like you got to do it this way. This is the way it has to be done, because she's Mormon. So she's very structured and not a bad parent at all. Like, I don't think I would love to have had her as a mom. But I just see like, I've talked to one of my cousins and they're like, well, we have to do everything she says. Otherwise she won't pay. And I'm like, you're 35 years old. Get off your butt and go get a job. Like, why are you doing this? She's like, how do you live your life? And I'm like, within my means. I was like, you don't need to go, like, you don't need to go get your dog groomed at the groomer. Do it yourself, Like, do you have to have your nails done all the time? No, like live within your means. So, but I'm so
Yeah.
grateful. I'm grateful that I'm not like them because if anything hit the fan and they lost all that money, they would not be able to survive at all.
No, no, no.
And I have the hustle and the skills and everything,
Yeah.
we can
You're
make
a
it happen.
survivor. You're a
Yeah.
survivor.
Yeah.
So I think whatever comes your way, you'll overcome it one way or the other because
Oh
you've
yeah.
overcome everything so far, whereas a lot of people wouldn't.
Yeah, it's God. I mean, it's like it's literally like I look back and I'm like, there's no way that a normal person, that anybody could just get through this stuff. Like me driving, I mean, it was not safe for me to be working. I should have been in the ICU. When we found out what was going on, my blood pressure was dropping from 80 to 40, like 80 over 40. And so I was losing consciousness and I'm supposed to drive like that. But yeah, they forced me to drive. I got no medical treatment for so long. And the doctors, like I've seen,
Scandalous.
so on top of my family, the doctors treated me horribly. So I was made fun
Yeah.
of because I'm a female, and they just and any like if anything's wrong, they'll label you as a psych patient. Like, oh, she has bipolar, or oh, she's got depression, or this, she has panic disorder. Um, and I got labeled, of course, and then I could not get any help fighting that label. Like everybody just kept going, and they still do. Like 16 years later, they still, because it's in my chart from 18 years ago. I'm like, that's not what's going on. Like, I have all the documentation. Here's all my test results. And they still like throw it to the psychological.
I don't want to see.
Yeah, so I have medical PTSD on top of it. So as soon as I see a doctor, I turn into like instant
Yeah.
mean, like nasty, I'm like, and I can't, I'm like, I'm so sorry, apologize, but you guys have not been nice to me. You've not been kind to me. And, I'm like, it's just the medical community. I was like, it's not you. I have to learn to segregate, like the people. But I have medical PTSD on top of it. Like, I cannot go into a doctor's office without just, I'm irate as soon as I walk into one because I know they're not going to help me,
Yeah.
So, and it's really, it's really defeating. I think like the most defeating thing is knowing that you're going to die, knowing that no family cares, and knowing that you have no doctor you can go to that even it doesn't even care. None of them care. And it's like you're sitting there and that's like the most defeating thing. It's like I have no family surrounding me. My kids had to go through all this 18 years of watching me with seizures and turning blue and not being able to walk. And now my daughter is 23. And if I fall, she has to come pick me up. They have to brush my hair. Like, that's not fair for them. They want to live
Yeah.
a life too, but they do everything for me. They take care of me and, but I'm like, I want them to go have a normal life. So yeah, it's been, but I think God's really been the one that just has got me through and doing things for other people so I don't go crazy. So,
Yeah.
it's like if I sat here and did
Yeah.
nothing, it's like
Oh,
I was at,
yeah, you could go mad very quickly
yeah,
because you could sit there and go through the injustices
yeah. And
to you.
also, like, the biggest thing for me too is like God is all about forgiveness. Vengeance is his. It's not mine to do, So it's like now I'm at the point where it's like I've forgiven you all, but I am terrified for you guys because you got to meet your maker,
I'm a big one. I'm a big one for karma.
Yeah, I'm like, you have to meet your maker. So I'm scared for you. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm really scared for you because you were given chance after chance after chance to chose not to. So, but it's like, I'm going to have a clean conscience. So I'm going to forgive you because it's, another thing is it's very important is forgiveness is like, if you don't forgive somebody, it's like taking poison and expecting the other person to get sick,
Yeah, I love that, and that is so true. And from my own experiences, I was very much like that, and I actually read that quote, and it was like an epiphany moment because you're
Yeah.
going around like hating people that's done you wrong, being totally unforgiven. They're getting on with their life; they don't care. I'm not
Yeah.
there
No,
hating them, and they're going, Lee's hating me. I'm having a bad day. Nobody cares. So
no, they
that
don't
was
care.
something I had to deal with. No, yeah,
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 they
it's
don't
great.
care. We're not a blip on their radar. So why are they living rent free in our head? You know?
Exactly,
So
exactly. Yeah.
it's like what I do is just, like I said, I always like I do goals, like what I want to
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
With my dissertation, I'm like I want to finish my dissertation. I want to become a doctor. So and then after that, I don't know what I want to do, but I'm like, if I'm kind of addicted to school, like I said, it's just I love learning. I love, give me more information, more information. But I think that also the learning kind of is like a drug to me instead of the
yeah,
drugs. It's like
yeah,
I can stop the stuff in my head. I can stop thinking and dwelling on what's going on and I can just move on, you know?
yeah, yeah. It gives you
So,
something to concentrate on and focus. A goal.
yeah,
It's very therapeutic.
yeah,
So I can see why you do it, and also you're expanding your knowledge, and there's so much you get
yeah,
from it. So I'm the same as
exactly.
yourself. But I think your story is remarkable in so many different ways. But I think despite everything that has been thrown at you, you still come through it one way or the other. And I think it's your courage and strength, your determination. Whereas
Mhm.
countless people would have just given up, and you got through all of these things. Yeah, it might still be hard going for you, and you're still paying the cost because of other people that could have dealt with things and not put you through that, but they chose not to there. But your strength is just amazing. And one of the reasons for doing a podcast, like I said before the start, is that clients of mine and other people wanted to listen to a story where they can relate to, and feel inspired by it. And that's exactly the case for yourself.
Yeah,
People listen to your story, and just the the amount that you've been through, and kept on going will relate to people that are going through things there or been through things there.
yeah,
And the fact that I mean, come out of the other side, yes, but you're still having to work hard. You still have to deal with things. You're still fighting,
yeah.
and no matter what, you still got the strength there. So it's just so great to have you on the podcast. It's been
Thank
brilliant
you.
talking to yourself, Dena. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
Thank you.